Sachs, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb in Real Estate Show with Stan DeFreitas, the dad, and James DeFreitas, the son. For the next hour, call in with your questions about gardening, growing your favorite veggies, and growing your profits in real estate. Call them anytime at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And a question that's asked sometimes, why should they pick someone like Dream It Real Estate over a huge big name that maybe they've heard of somewhere else in the country, one of the biggies?
Well, there's always a brand perception issue, and again, one of the reasons that I encourage a lot of people to do what I've done is, I think there's plenty of, there's tons of people out there that want to buy a name brand product, and it's, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a better product. It just means that it's one that you've heard before. And name recognition, counts big for some people. I mean, and I get it.
We've worked for some of the biggest.
Right, we've worked for some of the big boys out there, and they have pluses and minuses. They have kind of a ready-made system made up for agents, and some agents really like that there's an orderly process built into it. Now, what's interesting is the guys and gals that are the backbone of a company, they will pay for additional services that are above and beyond what you are going to get within your company because they need additional tools to help them. But what I think is hilarious is that they're having to pay for these additional tools that they mainly use, and the ones that are supplied to every agent that works there, they would never use those. So it is ironic that they get so comfortable in an environment that provides so little value to them. And so back to your question, why would someone choose from a selling point of view and from a buying point of view, why would somebody choose more of a boutique agency over, say, a giant? Well, one, I think that in some ways, I think a boutique agency has the chance, not all, but has the chance to provide better service to you in the sense that we have a lot less overhead. I'm not interested in nickel and diming you every time I get a chance. I'm very upfront about what we charge, and we're extraordinarily competitive in terms of what we want to charge. Now, one of the things I would say is, real estate agents have long made choices about trying to negotiate on what they get paid. And, the argument should always be, well, am I interested, or are you really interested about what you pay me? Or are you more interested about how much I get for your house? And again, and there is a whole mindset out there too that, and I won't name names, but I've played tennis with her multiple times. She's a nice enough lady, but she wound up selling her own house. But again, works part-time. She has a lot of free time. And, and she was in a very desirable neighborhood and all the conditions and stars aligned for her. Now, one of the things I tried to point that out to her, but of course she just, poo-pooed what I had to say because she was already mindset locked on a position.
Sure.
And so I was like, okay, well, I get it. I mean, if you want to try to handle it all yourself, it's also because you have the free time to do that. And, you have that mechanism in place, but that doesn't necessarily mean that works for everybody. And the other issue too is that, now you have to play little mini real estate agent and you've got to figure out a lot of stuff on the fly. And I also told her, said, your sale is pretty simple. So, and by the way, as long as everything goes right, you're good.
Right.
But if anything goes wrong, you're going to be sitting there scratching your left shoulder, scratching your right shoulder, and you're going to scratch your forehead and you're going to not be sure of what to do. Whereas, I have immediate access to an attorney and I'm going to go find out what the right thing is for you to do so that you don't turn around and make a mistake that's going to be costly.
And that's wise advice.
Right. So at the end of the day, that's what you do. And that's why you hire people to do things that are experts in their field, and you don't try to pretend to be an expert in all things because you're really good in one thing. And I see a lot of people suffer from that, and myself included. I tend to be able to handle a lot of different things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I should. I mean, there are some people that do certain things really, really well, and those people are going to be a better choice for you. I mean, I'll give you a case in point. Patrick L. Smith does a radio program on Saturdays. And now I could visit, LegalZoom.com, and I could try to figure out how to put together a will or a trust or what have you. And I might do it right. Odds are I probably won't. Or I could just call up Patrick Smith and say, hey, what do you charge? Oh, that's very reasonable. You're an expert in this area. Let me have some faith and trust in what you do. And I think that's a much better place to be and something I highly recommend people do. And if you haven't checked out his show, it's on Saturdays, and I forget the exact time. I want to say 8 to 9 in the morning. Is that about right, Brian? I mean, I think that's, yeah, he's given me the head bob that that's the correct time, 8 to 9 on Saturday mornings. And I think he's also simulcast on the Bone. So, you've got a couple of different ways to get him. But yeah, so Patrick L. Smith's definitely a wealth of knowledge when it comes to setting up your affairs and making sure you have things planned. And there's nothing worse. And in the real estate side of things too, I see this all the time where people do not have things figured out. And, they love their dad, they love their mom, and everything was great, but they just never thought that it was going to be their time to go. And when it does happen, one of the terrible legacies that you can leave a loved one is you can leave them with having to go through probate, and it's very expensive. I mean, it's a costly, long-term proposition. I mean, there are some probate cases that will take a year or longer. If you have a huge estate, I'm not saying everyone does, Lord knows I don't, but if you had a huge estate, it could take multiple years for people to get that estate settled, and so that you could actually move those assets and sell them. And the same thing that I would, so you're going to spend the money and you're going to spend the time. And it seems to me like that's like the worst thing that you could leave behind as the legacy. Your last parting legacy for a loved one is for them to have to worry about going through a complex set of legal stuff that you don't know anything about. And that, quite honestly, you don't need to know anything about. There are people that do this. Have trust, faith, and confidence that there are people out there that will do right by you. And a little bit of ounce of preventative there would go a long way. So having that stuff drawn up. The other thing too, and again, I'm not a lawyer, but one of the things I will tell you is that if you have additional assets that you purchase late in life and you decide that it's not part of your current will or estate planning, you need to contact your attorney immediately and say, hey, I've made this new purchase and I need to make sure it's part of my updated will, and I need to make sure that it's in there. Because the moment that you don't do that, you're putting yourself in a position where you might have to go through probate to get that handled, which is like was the point of pre-planning if we added this last little thing at the last second so that now we have to go and handle this new asset that you didn't add or attach to your estate. So that's bad. So please think about that as well, because it affects us on the real estate side as well. Because we've got, and I'll give you a case in point. I have a client. Very sweet people. They are just wonderful, salt of the earth people, but they had a situation where, the person's father died. And of course, when they die without a will, it's called intestate. And now they are in a very long probate situation. Of course, they were very honest in their situation. They made sure that they told the courts that, I have, some siblings that I'm not really in touch with. Well, unfortunately, the siblings they're not in touch with, it's become rather nasty rather quickly. And, they are expecting their full share. And, and that's unfortunate because that may not have been the wishes that the loved one who passed wanted. And it really boils down to what the person who died wanted, not what the person who has now been identified by the court, as being an heir. Now there's this idea of figuring out what is fair and what the courts will agree to. So that's something that you want to avoid entirely by making it very clear of what your wishes are. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. But in other real estate news, one of the things that we talked about in a previous show is we were talking about some of the current conditions that are taking place in real estate. And one of the things that's happening is that people are pretty much getting their asking price on as a whole, but the amount of inventory on the market is fairly significant to where it's been in the last couple of years. We're now at 2.6 months of inventory. Now, last year it was 2.5 in last August, so it's not a tremendous hike in the amount of inventory. And when I say months of inventory, I just mean that's how long it takes for all of that inventory to be, sold or disposed of, depending on how they go. And and another thing that's interesting too with real estate is that, and again, I see this with a lot of newbie sellers, people that don't do this a lot, and in terms of selling real estate, is they will, and again, well-intentioned, they always are, but they will send out hey, it's been 5 days, I got an offer on my property, meet your new neighbor, here's Mr. and Mrs. Smith. These are great people.
Might be a bit premature.
Yeah, you're going to love them. Here's their phone number. Here's what they do. And all of that sounds great until the inspection, and then inspection occurs, and then now you can forget about all that information.
Doesn't matter. Or
Right.
if it doesn't appraise out sometimes.
Or if it doesn't appraise out. That's a very good point. Or, the appraisal part has been sort of an afterthought, in the last couple of years, because
Right.
there were so many cash buyers. And so the appraisal thing was not something that even sellers were even
It's
contemplating.
kept going up.
Yeah, because, they kept saying, well, it's a cash offer. We don't really have to have it appraised because there's no bank involved. So that wasn't really even thought about in that way. And if appraisal was done, it was done as an optional thing, not because a bank ordered it to be done, because you're paying cash.
I saw one yesterday and it said pre-offer, cash only, and they're putting it out like 2 weeks. I'm not sure that's totally kosher, but
Well, as long as everyone's equally getting to participate, and you've also signed a clear cooperation agreement, and if it's not going in MLS, then
it was going in MLS.
Okay, as long as it goes is the moment you advertise something in a public forum, whatever it is, it has to go into MLS, or you have to have the seller sign a clear cooperation agreement that says that you are not putting it into MLS for a said reason. So, anyways, that's an interesting tidbit of information with regards to real estate. Don't change that dial. You are listening to Ask Mr. Greenthumb Gardening and Real Estate Show, and we'll be back shortly.
Stay with us as that plant talk and real estate talk continues here on AM 860, The Answer.
Interested in having a home consult? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at askmrgreenthumb.com.
Why choose Stafford Tree Service? Is it because they're experienced, have the latest equipment, and friendly professional personnel? Absolutely. Stafford's positioned themselves as a leading tree trimming company in all of Tampa Bay. With honest professionals and competitive pricing, they'll earn your trust too. In business for over 15 years, Stafford Tree Service is licensed, bonded, and insured to provide you the very best tree trimming experience. Call today, 727-546-8786, 727-546-8786, on the web at staffordtreesvc.com.
Biophilia, our innate attraction to other living things. It's why people love plants. And around Tampa Bay, Plants, that's Plantz, is bringing nature inside, in workspaces and homes by delivering beautiful foliage plants. Our plants increase oxygen and filter out pollutants, reducing stress and improving productivity. And get you in touch with your biophilic side. Go to plantz.us.
At Dream It Real Estate, we're a different kind of real estate company. We embolden our clients to dream their biggest dreams and partner with us to make those dreams come true. Our emphasis is on team building with clients who become friends for a lifetime. For more information, please go to dreamitrealestate.co or call or text James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127. Dream It Real Estate is always encouraging our clients to dream big with us today. Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Connect online at askmrgreenthumb.com. Got questions about gardening, real estate, or both? Give them a call at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And I thought I might take just a moment and mention one of my old senseis. I studied karate for, I guess, 20, 25 years or so. Frank Gorman, I just learned the other day, had passed. And he
Back in March.
Back in March, and I didn't realize it. None of his family called me, but he and I were pretty good friends. Not only did I study with him 2 or 3 times a week when I was doing karate, but I became a second-degree black belt, Nidan. I enjoyed karate. I'd studied at another school, but I liked Frank. I thought he was one of the best instructors that I'd been around. And I also played tennis with him a lot, and I enjoyed playing tennis with him. I couldn't beat him in the dojo, but I could beat him on the tennis court fairly often, though he was a good player there as well.
Sure, and if you want, I can read a little bit about him if you
ahead.
Want me to.
Yeah.
So it says, Frank J. Gorman was a pioneering student and a teacher of Okinawan Weichei-ryu Karate-do in the United States from 1962 until he died peacefully in Clearwater Beach, Florida on March the 12th, 2023. Mr. Gorman was one of the first Americans to travel to Okinawa for extensive karate training with Okinawan masters. He was among the first American masters of Okinawan karate, promoted to the master rank in 1986. At the time of his death, Mr. Gorman was a 9th degree black belt and the Grand Master of American, and I'm going to butcher this, Jakuku School of Weichei-ryu. I'm sorry about that. I don't know how to pronounce that. Among the thousands of karate students he taught, his proteges, including high-ranking karate masters in their own rights, teaching karate today out of Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New York, Washington, D.C., Florida, Louisiana, Montana, California, and in Canada and Argentina. There's a lot of ands in there, but that's okay. Mr. Gorman was born in 1942. in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Mm-hmm. He began studying Okinawan Weichei-ryu Karate-do in 1962 under the late Sensei Charles Earle and Sensei George Maston. In 1965, Sensei Gorman made the first of many attempts by visiting Okinawa. During his first trip, he was a master of Keinen Weichi, son of Kenbun Weichi, promoted Sensei Gorman to Shodan, which is a first-degree black belt, and took responsibility for his training. Thereafter, Sensei Gorman studied directly under Master Weichi for 21 years. When Master Weichi retired in 1986, he instructed Sensei Gorman to study henceforth under Master Ken Nakamatsu, who was still his teacher at the time of Mr. Gorman's death. I didn't know he was still alive. From 1972 to 1987, Mr. Gorman ran a legendary Weichei-ryu school at 10 Lyman Street in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, with hundreds of students attending classes 7 days a week. And in those years, he also taught classes at Simon's Rock College, Berkshire Community College under Williams College, Amherst College, and the University of Massachusetts and Miss Hall School. From 1987 to 2015, Mr. Gorman lived and taught in Clearwater and in Oldsmar, Florida, where he built a series of successful karate schools, built a whole new crop of karate practitioners, several of whom became senior masters, including Masters Ryan Dean, 8th degree black belt, Gorman's successor as sensei of the schools in Clearwater and in Oldsmar, Florida. I didn't know he'd left behind somebody that was still teaching those, so that's interesting.
I did go by the dojo a year or two ago, and they invited me to come in, and I couldn't really do what I used to do, but I could even sit and work with some of the
interesting.
early
Well,
belts.
Apparently, there's a guy named Ryan Dean who I don't know, but probably a great guy.
I know him.
Okay, well, that's very cool. So from 2016 to 2022, Mr. Gorman lived and taught in New Haven, Connecticut, in the dojo of Master Bruce Tolgan, who studied with Gorman starting at age 7 in Pittsfield in 1974. Gorman recently had returned to Florida at the time of his death. Throughout his life, Gorman was first and foremost a diligent student, always training, always looking for ways to work smarter, to make his technique even stronger, faster, more accurate, more beautiful, to improve his own karate. A gifted practitioner and teacher, Gorman generously and vividly shared his own training journey with his students, narrating the practice in meticulous detail, infecting his students with a profound commitment and enthusiasm. In order to maintain the authenticity of what he was teaching, Gorman traveled to Okinawa dozens of times, training there for weeks and months at a time. He also sponsored training visits to the United States by his teacher, Master Nakamatsu, and other Okinawan masters many times over the years. Known for his humility and folksy manner, he was also known for his perfect form, overwhelming power, and exceptionally high standards for his students. His exacting approach training was not for the casual student, and I agree with that. He was very, very thorough. I never studied under Frank Gorman, but I certainly visited his dojo a couple of times, proximity because of you attending his dojo. So
Well, you were there when I went up for my first degree and my second degree black belt.
yeah. And boy, oh boy, did you have to be tough to go through that process, because they literally like beat on you until you're, because, you're basically having to pass a muster. You're having to pass this test that you're tough enough to be part of this, what I would consider an elite club of people that make it to that level. And they want to make sure that they weed out people. I mean, I could keep going or I could stop or whatever you think is necessary here.
I was just going to mention also Martin Marcus was one of his students, and Martin had been with many people. Martin went up for the World's Championship a couple of times. I think he lost to Jet Li and Superfoot Wallace. But Martin also, he and I talked the other day, neither one of us knew. Both of us felt like we were in the good friends with Frank, and we were a little disappointed that we weren't included originally, but maybe it was just an oversight.
It could have been. And I think a lot of times when people pass, did I tell everybody? Did I, were they, as connected as they, and again, I can't speak to Frank Gorman's social media reach.
Right.
Again, he was a person that was built, made in the 40s. So, I'm not saying everybody in the 40s doesn't have some technological skills, but a lot of times that gets missed on people in that years because it wasn't something that they're used to. So, social media has been very helpful in letting people know how people are doing, even if there is more of a casual connection there rather than an active one. So,
He's one I didn't have a connection with that way. I don't think he really did that.
And that's a shame. And then so it's hard. It's really hard for people to know when your loved one has passed. So we might want to cut Steve a break, Steve Gorman, his son, who, that probably wanted everybody to know, but unfortunately it's hard to let everybody know when Frank touched so many people's lives.
No, hundreds, I'm sure. And
or thousands.
The old days, we would have had, the newspaper would have been a medium that everybody used. Today, not nearly as much as it was.
Sure, yeah, and especially the one that we're stuck with as well. But needless to say, it's harder to get the word out on everything. We're living proof of that. I was talking to somebody the other day, and you do a radio show? And I'm like, I've only been doing it for 3 years, but that's cool, But again, one of the things I would say is if you like our content, you can certainly point your browser to your favorite podcasting website, and you can pop in there, Ask Mr. Greenthumb, and you will come up with yours truly, James and Stan DeFreitas, and you can listen to what we talk about. We've done lots and lots of shows over the last 3 years, so we're always a wealth of information with regards to the things that we know best. So, it's the third segment.
So we were going to say, if you've got any questions, you can go to our site. You can send us pictures.
Right.
And I always like if I can see things. It helps me diagnose your problems. Stay with us as the Plant Talk and Real Estate Talk continues right here on AM 860, The Answer.
Want to talk real estate? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at AskMrGreenthumb.com. At Dream It Real Estate, we're a different kind of real estate company. We embolden our clients to dream their biggest dreams and partner with us to make those dreams come true. Our emphasis is on team building with clients who become friends for a lifetime. For more information, please go to dreamitrealestate.co or call or text James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127. Dream It Real Estate is always encouraging our clients to dream big with us today. Did you know that Stan DeFreitas, Mr. Green Thumb, can come to your house and examine your plants, trees, and palms? His knowledge can help you become the envy of your neighborhood with lush, green, healthy trees that don't just live, but thrive. Palms and oak trees are part of what makes Florida a beautiful place to live. But they get diseases and are often cut down. We offer ways to save your trees. Call or text Stan today at 727-423-4794 or go online to AskMrGreenthumb.com. That's AskMrGreenthumb.com. Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Got questions about perennial flowers? What about issues with closing on your newest property? Give them a call at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And I talked earlier in the show a little bit about pH. Now, pH is the acidity of your soil, and it's the alkalinity or acidity. Mm-hmm. It's important for all of us. I mean, our stomach has a certain pretty acid pH.
Oh, yeah.
Everything has a pH. Mm-hmm. And plants like it about 5.5 to 6.5. They like it slightly acidic. Some will take a little more alkaline. Some take a little more acidic. Azaleas, camellias, gardenias all tend to like a little more acidic. Mm-hmm. So if you do a pH test, and I advise you to have a pH test done.
How do they send a pH? I mean, first off, let's put it in their point of view. You suspect that their pH is off, okay? And I want to get a hold of you to figure out what to do. What do I do?
I want you to take a little sample, maybe a couple of tablespoons of soil, and put it in a little baggie and secure it.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from you is a large garbage bag full of 16 shovel loads that I'm going to send in the UPS. Is that what you said?
No, I want a couple of tablespoons, maybe 2 or 3 tablespoons.
Tablespoons, not shovelfuls.
No, it's kind of like taking blood. You know, they all take like 6 vials, but if you saw what they actually use under the slide, you'd go
So you're saying you just need a small amount.
I need a small amount.
Okay, interesting.
But I don't give me micrograms either, because then I can't run the test.
Okay, so a couple of tablespoons is all you need.
Yeah, and I would take it from about a 2 to 4 inch depth level. Don't take it just off the surface, because you're getting a lot of maybe mulch.
Go down a little bit.
Go down a little bit, anywhere from about 2 to 4 inches, where most of the root system is.
What do I put it in?
Plastic baggie.
A little Ziploc bag?
A little Ziploc bag. If you want, put a little twist tie on it, like you have from the bread wrap or something.
Should I mark front yard, backyard?
You should. Something that you know, it's next to my azaleas. I know that they're not looking good. They're looking deficient. They're looking yellow.
And then so provide a description of why you think maybe the test is needed.
Maybe right on there, azaleas or Bahia grass or St. Augustine or oak tree or whatever it may be. Give me a little information. And if there's something wrong, if you want to send us a picture with it, you can do it differently.
Oh, so you want even more information in addition to me providing 2 tablespoons worth of dirt in a Ziploc bag. And then I'm going to take that bag and I'm going to put it in a small little box. And then what?
Well, then I'm going to do the testing.
Well, they got to ship it to you.
They got to ship it. They can send it to me, 303 Arlington Avenue West, Oldsmar, Florida, 34677.
Probably should call you before I do it, though, right?
Yeah, you should call me. We do have a tech that has to run the test. I pay somebody to run it.
Because otherwise, you're getting soil sent to you, and you're not sure who it's from or why.
Yeah, I need to know some information. If you want to put a little letter in there, you can handwrite it or you can type it. I don't care. Computer.
So you do this for free?
I'll look at stuff for free. I need to get something, though, to run the test.
Okay, so I need to include a check,
money order, or cash.
Okay, so I need to get a check for $20
per
sample in the box, because you got to be able to cover your time to do it and to make sure that you get it back to them. If I want to know more information, because I'm not good at writing all this stuff down and I need to have this kind of spelled out for me, I can call you at what number again?
At 727-423-4794. That's 727-423-4794.
Okay.
You also will probably find that on the website.
Well, yeah, they can literally, if they go to your website, they can type in Ask Mr. Greenthumb. That's ASKMR, greenthumb.com. And there's actually at the very bottom, it'll pop up with a call button. And you don't even have to type in anything. It will do it itself. So if you're doing it from a smartphone, we have you covered.
And I love that. A lot of times when I see it, I go, oh boy, I don't even have to worry about the number. I can just hit the little icon
and boom,
and then
it's
I can
calling.
Call. And I've been doing that lately, calling different contractors. I'm amazed that some contractors will call you back. Others don't. Some wait a day or two. Some wait 2 or 3. If it's 2 or 3, that's not what I want. But,
right. And who would? I mean, that's not what you want. And in any business, you should be trying to get people to you should be getting back to people the very next day. But you can see right there at the very bottom of the screen, it's click to call.
There you go.
And so you hit the green button and boom, it will call, and boom, you have Stan right there on the line to help you figure out how to submit your pH sample or to set up a home consultation.
Now, if you call right at this minute,
That would be bad.
I'm not going to get to it.
Right,
It's
yeah,
going to
that-
go into voicemail.
That will go into voicemail, but that doesn't matter. Stan does get back to people usually within one business day.
Yep.
Occasionally, he might get back to you in 2 business days.
If I'm out of country or out of pocket,
Right.
There was a time this summer we took a nice vacation, and even there, I took calls when I was in England and Scotland and Ireland because I thought, well, they're my customer, so they deserve somebody to get back. I actually set some work for us while I was, I think, in Scotland.
Right. Yeah. And speaking of Scotland, we stopped at a general store in the town of Luss, Luss. And it's a little sleepy town, not far from the Scottish Highlands. And if you ever get the chance to stop into Luss, I recommend that you do that because it's a nice, neat little town that has a bunch of little fish and chip stops, and you can go in there and enjoy yourself. And I think that would be a nice place to stop in and pop in for a weekend, like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday kind of thing. And I think I would enjoy seeing more of that town and getting on with a little bit of that sleepy, hollow vibe.
And if you're not sure what to say, tell them it's a bra brick moan lek nuck nuck. It's not Scottish.
It's crap. Yeah,
I said,
exactly.
They'll love it. At least the tour guide we had liked it.
Yeah, and if they don't love it, who cares?
Yeah.
You'll never see them again. So the other thing that I would say is, and again, we've talked about this before, traveling is an amazing experience. It broadens your horizon. It allows you to see that other people do things differently, and that's a good thing. And it also provides, one of the things I've noticed a lot of times, I live in a townhome community, as I often tell people, and one of the things that happens there is you run into a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds. And what I find interesting is there are people in there that don't like other people, but yet you've signed up for dense living environment where you're going to be around a lot of people. Yeah. So I find that interesting. I'll say hello to certain neighbors because I'm generally happy-go-lucky and happy and want to talk to people and say hi. And some people will duck into their house before they can actually have to respond back.
Give you the Hawaiian good luck sign?
Well, no, I don't think it's on purpose. And I always assume that if they do that, that means they really like me.
They do.
You're never going to get me down with that because I'm always going to go, well, yes, I love you too. And that's a wonderful thing. Thank you. But anyway, the thing that I think that, is interesting is that, you cannot make people behave the way you think they should behave.
Yeah, I think you've said that before.
I have. And I say it again because I think it needs to be addressed is that you have to accept the fact that others are different. And that's one of the reasons you learn that real fast when you do a lot of traveling is that people do things differently and that's okay. And that you learn a different way of doing things. One of the things I thought was interesting, I'm pulling out my Dr. Bill Handelman here and being eclectic. And so one of the things I thought was interesting is I was traveling in Istanbul one time and every morning in breakfast that we were staying at this small little boutique hotel and what they would do is they had a honeycomb wedge and it was put into a press. And so when you wanted some honey, you would just turn the knob at the top and some honey would come out as it gently squeezed the cones.
That's kind of cool.
And you just don't see that everywhere. So that's an interesting way to do it.
Not something you typically see in America.
I've never seen it anywhere except there. But again, it gives you an idea that certain things are maybe done better in certain places and, you can learn.
Sure.
And so once I saw that, I never forgot it. And that's why I share that story now, which is another thing that's interesting too. I mean, one of the things about your business in terms of taking care of trees is, we're always cognizant of the bee population.
Sure.
You never want to try to get rid of bees if you can ever help it.
We need those pollinators.
You need those pollinators. They're very important. And, we generally recommend that if, bees have made a home somewhere that you'd rather they didn't, that you call out a bee guy. And if you need a bee guy, of course, you have an unbelievable resource. You can pop into the AskMrGreenthumb.com website and you can ask us for a bee guy. If you don't feel like doing that, well, then pop on Facebook and you can ask some of your friends. Somebody somewhere knows of somebody who does it, I assure you.
Actually, one of our old real estate friends has some honey that I know he is selling, and so we actually worked with him for a while. Good guy. And so if you give me a holler, we'll give you his name. I'm always looking for good fresh honey because I think it's
the ultimate connectors.
Well, we try to do where we can. We're there to help people.
Well, and if you're in any business, you should be always trying to figure out how to connect people as best you can, especially when you've had a positive experience with somebody's business model, then you should definitely try to push that on because I think referrals are the best kind of business. It's one of the reasons that we partner with a lot of tree trimming companies is because we want to partner with them because the really good ones out there understand that saving trees actually ensures future work. If you go out there and you cut a tree down that could have been saved, well, you get to cut it down once. You don't get to go back and trim it again. So that's not really great for, client interactions.
Yep.
So,
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
We'll ask Brian. Which segment are we in, Brian?
Yeah, we might want to get a
3.
idea.
Okay.
So we're in the third segment. We'll go to the fourth one here in another minute and a half. But one of the things that we're doing here, of course, we're talking about gardening and real estate. And we were just talking about bee populations and why they're important to your habitat wherever you may be living.
Otherwise, you got to put on these big 6-foot wings and take your paintbrush and buzz around and try to be the pollinator.
Yeah, and that's going to be rather tough. So I don't think that's going to happen. Interestingly enough, when I was leaving to come here to the station today, there was must have been a bird or something, but he dropped like a dead snake carcass on the front of my door.
Oh my!
Yeah, so I was sitting there trying to figure out how the heck that happened. I have to go back to my doorbell cam and figure out when that happened and make sure it's not some kind of weird Macedonian voodoo hex. I hope not.
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not, but it could be. I think they do that over that region.
Like a racer or a rat snake?
I don't know. I just scooped it off really fast with my foot because I knew I was already kind of late on my approach to come here to the station and wanted to get here as quickly as I could. But yeah, I hope it's not one of those terrible Macedonian voodoo hexes. But it could be.
I hope not.
Yeah. So anyways, with that said, of course, we are here talking about gardening and real estate, and we'll be coming up here on a break. And don't change that dial. Please stay with us.
Sure.
And we'll continue talking about all things gardening and real estate related.
Got trees or shrubs or lawns? People say, hey, we used to pull out that St. Augustine as crabgrass up north. Well, down here, it's one of our main grasses. A lot of folks are going to more ground covers, and I think that's a good idea. Cut down on some of that mowing. Mowing takes a lot of gas. Ground covers are easier to work with, so I commend you for doing that. Stay with us as the Plant Talk and Real Estate Talk continues.
Want to talk real estate? Call James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127 or go online, aflre.com. At Dream It Real Estate, we're a different kind of real estate company. We embolden our clients to dream their biggest dreams and partner with us to make those dreams come true. Our emphasis is on team building with clients who become friends for a lifetime. For more information, please go to dreamitrealestate.co or call or text James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127. Dream It Real Estate is always encouraging our clients to dream big with us today.
Why choose Stafford Tree Service? Is it because they're experienced, have the latest equipment, and friendly professional personnel? Absolutely. Stafford's positioned themselves as a leading tree trimming company in all of Tampa Bay. With honest professionals and competitive pricing, they'll earn your trust too. In business for over 15 years, Stafford Tree Service is licensed, bonded, and insured to provide you the very best tree trimming experience. Call today, 727-546-8786, 727-546-8786. On the web at staffordtreesvc.com.
Biophilia, our innate attraction to other living things. It's why people love plants. And around Tampa Bay, Plants, that's Plantz, is bringing nature inside in workspaces and homes by delivering beautiful foliage plants. Our plants increase oxygen and filter out pollutants, reducing stress and improving productivity. And get you in touch with your biophilic side. Go to plantz.us.
Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Connect online at askmrgreenthumb.com. Got questions about gardening, real estate, or both? Give him a call at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And I had a question the other day. Somebody sent me a thing saying, hey, what's all this black soot I'm getting on my gardenia? Well, the black soot indicates that you've got some insects, usually aphids, sometimes scales, but aphids are a real big one. They love to get on the new growth. That's where they will. An aphid's called a plant lice, and they actually have a little stylet on their mouth part, and they put it into the leaf, and then they start sucking the juice, the sugary secretion out of the leaf, which causes it to look deformed. Often the leaf will start to look stippled, and it'll look funky. And you may not notice them because an aphid's only about maybe 1/10 of an inch. So yeah, you may see them, but they're usually the same color as whatever they're feeding upon. So they may be green, or they could be black. They could be different colors, could be white. And they usually have like a little pear-shaped body. And you'll notice that if you want to look with a hand lens, back when I was a horticulture teacher years ago, often I'd get a microscope out and we'd show the students, take a look and see how gnarly they look under a microscope. And aphids were interesting to see. Spider mites are even smaller. They're about 1/50th of an inch. So that's smaller than a pinpoint. You can see them, but you better have really good eyesight.
Yeah, that sounds like it. Yeah, I would just pull up the old IFAS website here, and I was just looking at what they thought was the plant of the month, and they had the Ilex vomitoria.
Ilex vomitoria, okay. So it's a small little leafed holly, and they can get to be large, but they often are kept a little round or squared.
Got the juicy little red berries.
They're supposedly the Native Americans used to use them for some religious properties. And they would have like puke parties, kind of, I guess, they always talked about the Romans having, gorging themselves. Supposedly, some of our natives, and I didn't realize that they've recorded, I guess, some natives that lived here 12,000 years ago in the state of Florida. Huh. So, when you look at the way they put the map, they always go, well, they came across the land bridge, and then they came down, and they made it like it's relatively new. But many of our indigenous people have been in the Americas for a good long time.
Sure.
And unfortunately, when I don't want to pick on the white man, but in general, a lot of diseases were brought that were prevalent in Europe. And of course, the natives didn't have any immunity to them. And so disease killed off many of our indigenous population because of the diseases that were brought. Now, Bill.
Yeah, but now they have wonderful cigarettes to sell and great casinos, and they have got tons of roads that we can drive by on names we can't pronounce. But other than that, it's a wonderful, wonderful bastion of history that we have still left here in Florida.
I guess they had to learn how to adapt and survive.
Well, sure, absolutely. Might as well sell us some cigarettes on the way out.
Well, maybe that's just payback,
I guess. So what's blooming right now in this month? Well, apparently, according to IFAS, is the plumbago.
Plumbago.
Oh, no, I'm just giving it the original Roundtree pronunciation.
Oh, yeah, that's what he used. I remember telling him one time he was coming out of a station or wherever he was, and I saw Reggie and knew him not well, but I knew him. And I said, it's called plumbago. And
now I got you saying
because he said plumbago. And he goes, well, I don't know. I said, well, that's the reason you guys ought to have
me
doing a garden segment for you, which actually we did on that station. We did 2 seasons on CBS. We actually beat CBS News locally. We beat it nationally. We beat CSI and Rerun. We beat the NFL Today.
We beat everybody.
You name it, we beat them. We had about 80,000 viewers. And not just guessed, we think we've got 80,000 hits a month. We had 80,000 viewers according to the Nielsen's every week.
Sure. And 6 million viewers potentially out there all the time. That's something that's hard to forget. So what to plant in September? Well, this show, of course, is airing on October 1st. So this may be still applicable information.
Sure.
But one of the things it's talking about is lettuce, squash, and greens can be planted planted throughout this month. So September, I imagine October, you could still plant that stuff.
October, it's a good month. As it starts to get a little bit cooler, to me, it's our best growing season. Now, if you're up from north, you're used to doing June, July, August usually, the hot, warm months because you've had so long of cold. But down here, we almost have to think of overwintering. Our best gardening season for veggies is coming up. And if we don't get a freeze, and we didn't the last couple of years, it's been a few years since we've had any kind of real hard freeze, you can grow all the way through December, January here, February, which is great. So you can get a couple of almost seasons. Last year I grew some lettuce and then I replanted more lettuce and enjoyed that, some of the leaf lettuce, which is $2 or $3 in the store now if you're at Publix. Don't mind giving money to Publix, but it's kind of fun to grow your own, grow broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, made some fresh cabbage this last season, coleslaw. And that's the way I like it. I like to put some carrot and stuff, and a little, seed in there. You can really jazz it up and make it interesting.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of important too. Most of the plant advice that you're giving is for Central Florida because that's where this show is primarily based. But it looks to me as if IFAS kind of breaks up Florida as north, central, and south.
Typically.
In terms of how it sees things. So like it's saying in the North Florida that you could have arugula, beets, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower. Now, some of these things I think you could grow here too, and they kind of repeat that.
You can.
And then one of the things that they were talking about too that not a lot of people grow is mustard.
Mustard greens.
Yeah,
mustard
greens.
I've grown them before. I had some at our house in Clearwater that were 2.5, 3 feet tall. They were beautiful. We didn't eat them as much back then. I think I gave some away to some of my students when I was teaching at the time. But they were very good, and they had that mustard kind of flavor to them. And you say, well, why was it mustard greens? Well, they're kind of like a green, and yet they've got a little bit of mustard with it.
Well, it's all that salt that's in them. I've heard that onions are so flavorful because they have so much salt in them.
Well, onions are
Third
good for
best
you,
chef
too.
of America, I think, said that.
Yeah, well, it could be. I don't know about that.
I checked the onion story, and I looked that up, and it turns out there is no salt in onions.
Well, I think he likes to keep people. Maybe it's the salt shaker that you sprinkled with.
I think he was keeping us guessing and on our toes. But so then it talks about beans, carrots, cucumbers, okra, onions.
Onions are good. I like either. You can put out little small. You can buy a little pack of them and separate them, or you can grow them from seed. And I've grown onions that be 3 or 4 inches across. I've grown, of course, pumpkins. I raised a 57-pound pumpkin once when you were young.
Yeah, that was a massive one.
It took over half the backyard. But I enjoyed, when people say, have you done it? And I said, well, yes, I've done it. And I can tell you where I improved the soil. It was important. I used to take a rototiller and till a lot of stuff into the ground. I was using different fish emulsions. Had great results.
Oh, I remember the fish emulsions. My God, you could smell it 100 miles away. You're pulling into the dry. Oh my, Dad's been putting out the fish emulsion out again. That is some stinky stuff, folks. You think that your fish burps are bad. This thing takes the cake for your omega-3s. But anyways, some of the other things that I thought was interesting, and I'll just kind of say this because gardening, again, it goes along with the idea of health because a lot of people are growing things that they can eat. And if you're growing the things that you can eat, most of those things have the potential to be healthy. It's what you do with them later that you put in the skillet that may make them a lot less healthy. But one of the things I saw my eye doctor a little earlier, a couple of weeks back, and I said, "Hey, I'm still eating my carrots." And she goes, "Well, you can eat the carrots, but research has shown that anything of the dark green leafy vegetables is much better for your eyes than any
more beta carotene.
Yeah, it's much better for you than anything you're going to get out of a carrot." So she was recommending, kale, Swiss chard. Spinach. She says any of that type of family is far more beneficial for your eyes than any of the thing you would get out of a carrot. So
she might not approve of the bacon crumbles that you'll cook to put on it.
Correct, and that's the point. That's the part where we take the stuff that's that we've grown that's very healthy, and then we figure out a way to make it unhealthy so that we can bear to eat it.
Well, that's probably true, but I do enjoy it. I just had an avocado this morning for breakfast off my tree, And I enjoy growing that. I've grown citrus. I've got limes that I took off my tree earlier, and I do that almost every day. I'll have lime water or lemon water.
And that's a good thing for you, too. We do want to remind folks, if you like our program and you like what we're all about, of course, you can always catch us by typing into your web browser at askmrgreenthumb.com. You can type that into a Google search engine and Ask Mr. Greenthumb or any of your favorite podcasting. We're always available when you want to hear us, and that will not change. And so one of the things that wanted to get that out there is that if you like what we're doing, is that you can always get us no matter where we are, and that is always a good thing. And of course, with that noise, we're going to say thank you for listening to us. And
we appreciate you being with us. We are actually be our last show on this station,
Yep.
but we appreciate each and every one of you, and we thank you so much for being with us for the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for your diligent listening. And of course, Dr. Bill Handelman will be up next.
Live it up.
Interested in having a home consult? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at Ask Mr.